Download the Lucra app today to challenge your friends and win money.
Campus2Canton. Campus2Canton on the Better Sports Network.
I know people got to be thinking, like, are these dudes going to be talking college football like all year round? Well, we told you that. We told you that when we first started here, we would be here all year round so you can get your football fix. And if you think about, Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley, Austin Nace from Campus2Canton, we have no home training. We don't know what we're doing here on the radio. But we told you in our first episode that we would be here all year round. And our game, the Campus2Canton game, it kind of requires that you do so because the draft matters, recruiting matters, all of that stuff. There are startups happening all over the place right now for us. Guys, there's still news. There's still stuff trickling in. We're going to talk about this quarterback at Florida. Well, Miami, Florida, I don't know. He's committed to like every team in Florida. Jaden Rashada, who had a huge NIL deal that fell through. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get to 2023 true or false questions. Mox, Austin, I've got some questions for you. But we got to start with Coach Prime. I mean, you can always start with Coach Prime. He's a content machine.
We gotta.
He's a content machine. I don't know if you all have seen this, but they are being transparent. I don't know if that's the word, but they're putting a lot of content on social media with coach meeting with the strength and conditioning coaches, with Coach Prime meeting with the team, with Coach Prime, talking to the team about how women are treated who are there on staff. But there's this other one. There's this other one, and I love this because it epitomizes college football and college football coaches. We got this sound of, is it Tim Brewster, Mox? Is it Tim Brewster?
It is.
Tim Brewster meeting with the Colorado Buffaloes on how things are going to be. So, Anthony, our lovely producer today, Anthony, play that sound for us.
When I say stand tall, okay, I want you bouncing out of your seat and stand tall. When I say stand tall, get your ass up. Stand tall. Sit your ass back down. Stand tall. We come. We come. Raise the goddamn roof. Raise the roof. We coming. We coming. We coming. We coming. The Colorado buses show up, and 60 minutes of hell coming with it. 60 minutes of hell coming with it. The time is now, man. The time is now. Sit down.
Austin, how likely is it that the Colorado Buffaloes are coming in 2023?
It's still a year early. We talked about this. Felix, I've been on with you twice on this show since Colorado hired Deion, and both times we led with Deion. So really excited to be talking about this again. And we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago where the schedule is just brutal. Like, even if you are the most optimistic person, you think Deion is, he's not going to be in Colorado long because he's going to be a great NFL coach and he's going to make the jump here. The roster is just so bad. And it's really bad at the money positions. Like the trenches are terrible. So and quarterback is unproven. I think with those two things, it's just difficult to expect a ton of wins, even with a coach screaming at you like a drill sergeant, which, by the way, I would never play for a coach that acted like that in a billion years. Ever. He told me.
Listen, Austin, hold on. Don't get all righteous about me including Deion at the top of the show sheet. It's a lot of sports content companies out there that are following Deion and using that to as a discussion point to start shows because it is good content. We get to see the inside of a football program and how they're starting. But I think it's just funny out here because there are people who have never seen Deion Sanders play that are predicting that he's going to win the Heisman. The last time, Mox, that I saw a prediction like this that was that weird is remember 2 years ago when Pro Football Focus had Emory Jones, the Florida quarterback, going number 6 overall to whatever team. And we were all like, who's out here? What are you watching to put Emory Jones at number 6 overall? I think that we're getting a little bit ahead of it. It's an exciting team. It's definitely an exciting team. But Mox, I don't think that 2023 is going to be the year that they come.
Sit your ass back down.
That's great. No, it's not the year that they come in. It's at least a year away, probably multiple. And I buy into the idea that Deion is a player's coach insofar that players want to play for him. And I think that's a good thing. I actually really like the staff that he's brought in. Sean Lewis is his offensive coordinator, head coach at Kent State before. He runs kind of like a modified run and shoot Bryles offense. At Kent State, you can only pull that off to like so much. Defense coordinator
Georgia
was
game
interesting
last year. Gave Georgia a game with that offense last year. Yeah.
They played Georgia competitively. That's a really good point. Charles Kelly, who's the defense coordinator, he spent time at Alabama, was the associate head coach for the last 3 years, safeties coach. I think that's really important, actually, a guy who understands secondary in the Pac-12. I think the staff that he's put together is really good. I have been really impressed by the hires he's made. Not sure 2023 is their year per se. They just don't have enough experience on this roster. It's a huge turnaround. Like, this team was a bottom 10 team in the country last year.
Well, so their talent composite is something that 24/7 Sports compiles, basically telling you how talented your team is based on their recruiting rankings. Colorado in 2022 ranked 63rd, right ahead of Duke and behind Virginia last season. Now, you can have all the Louis luggage that you want to. I don't know that you can make a turnaround that quickly. And we talked about this on another show. But their out-of-conference schedule isn't like Western Michigan and Bethune-Cookman. They start with TCU and Nebraska. TCU is just in the national championship. Nebraska's a rebuilding team, but they're just as good or better than Colorado. And then they got Colorado State. It's funny because I've seen Shedeur Sanders predicted to be a Heisman Trophy winner. I've seen Shedeur Sanders in the same breath as Caleb Williams and Drake May to be the first quarterback taken next year. I just want people to give us credit now when we say that is not going to happen, because this team, when's the last time somebody won the Heisman when that team won less than 6 games? And this team is going to be fun, but they're probably
has that ever
less
happened?
Than 6 games.
Has that
probably
ever happened?
In like the 40s when half the
3-4
players were like storming Normandy. That's the last time it's probably happened.
Mox, you got some stats on Shedeur Sanders, what he looks from an analytical perspective?
Yeah, I don't like all these stats per PFF, right? They actually do a really good job tracking some of these SWAC teams.
They just don't do a good job predicting first-round NFL draft picks the year prior when you've got every.
Not exactly. We will see what Tanner McKee does this year as well, who's projected in the first round from them as well. But we'll see. Anyway, statistically, there are a couple metrics that I really like to look at when we're evaluating quarterbacks. One is big time throw rate. That basically tells you ball location, timing. It puts emphasis on like downfield passing, because that's a 20-yard pass like right in the bucket is a lot more impressive than like a 5-yard pass on target, right? 3.5 big time throw percentage, which if you look at quarterbacks who threw more than 125 passes, that would have ranked 106 between Bowling Green's quarterback and Wyoming's quarterback, neither of whom I think are quality FBS players. Average depth of target, 7.6. You're really looking for like 9 to 10 from an NFL quality quarterback. Yards per attempt, 7.5. Again, 71% of his passes were under 9 yards. When you compare that to someone like CJ Stroud, 59%. So a 12% difference over the course of the year is pretty massive. and we'll talk about some of the players who struggle passing deep later as well when we go into our true or false game. But 51% completion percentage beyond 10 yards is horrendous. Like, this is a guy who just is like he's like dink and dunk, moves the ball downfield in that way. I actually don't really expect it to change all that much. Mostly because Sean Lewis is offensive coordinator, and Sean Lewis is like that kind of scheme. Like, I expect it to be short, easy completions and drive them downfield. I don't know what's impressive about Shedeur Sanders, besides that he led like a 12-1, 11-2 SWAC team, and then lost in the championship. Like, what? He's not an impressive quarterback, at least as we stand currently. He needs to make massive strides.
I think Coach Prime is walking around with a camera on him at all times. I mean, you see him in the equipment room. You see him in the cafeteria. You see him going skiing. You see him at local restaurants and people. You saw him getting a pedicure. I saw a video of him getting a pedicure today, and he said he only got 8 toes. Can he get a discount? All right.
Wait, time out. Does he actually only have 8 toes?
Yeah. Yes. This is you didn't know that he had some sort of accident. He had to have his toes amputated.
The Shedeur or Deion?
Post-playing career?
No, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime. There was an incident. It happened at Jackson State because he was going around on one of those scooters. The accident happened then.
Okay, so like it wasn't like while he was playing. It's not like Ronnie Lott where he cut my finger off.
He had to have his toes amputated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Segway accident in Jackson, Mississippi. I mean, I'm just saying.
It happens. All right, Austin, 2023 isn't going to be their year. And I know that this is like, we don't know how he's going to translate to the Power 5 level. But if you had to be prospective and look ahead a little bit, what do you see the trajectory for this team? We know that he was a great recruiter at Jackson State. If you pull a number 1 recruit to an HBCU when they've got every school in the country offering them, that's a big deal. And he's about to get Kamani McLean, who's the number 1 cornerback in the country, after pulling the number 1 cornerback in last year's class. Do you think that he can, maybe do that at other positions, quarterback, wide receiver? I mean, Colorado ain't that far away from California. California is a hotbed. If you had to guess, 2-3 years down the line, what would you say it would look like for this Colorado program?
I think he can. You think about the two of the biggest programs in the Pac-12 historically are USC and UCLA. They're leaving the conference in the next year or two, so that is 2 games off their schedule they probably don't have to worry about moving forward. I think Colorado, they have good resources there. It's not a bad school by any stretch. He is Deion, like you said, I think especially he resonates with defensive backs like Travis Hunter, like you talked about, the number 1 player in last year's class. I think any other position that probably doesn't happen. I think the same with Cormani McLean. So I am interested to see, can he continuously pull top recruits at other positions? I think they're certainly going to try. They tried for Caden Proctor this year, who was a 5-star offensive tackle. Depending on which service you look at, he was the top offensive lineman in the class. He ended up at Bama, but he tried to flip him late when he went there. So he is trying other positions. We'll just see if it can work. The one question I do have, and we just talked about Shedeur and his, unknowns. I don't want to call them shortcomings yet. As long as Shedeur is there, will they struggle to recruit quarterbacks if there is a unofficial mandate that he has to start? And I don't know that we know that for sure, but I mean, he didn't bring that many kids with him. One of them was his own kid who he dragged to an HBCU. Like, I don't know what – I honestly don't know. That might be a turnoff. Like, you mentioned Jaden Rashad at the start here. If they didn't have Shedeur, if there was no, mandate to probably play him, I would throw Colorado in the mix for him, but I doubt he wants to go and sit for, probably 2 years there at Colorado. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do there.
Rashada may or may not be visiting Colorado.
Is he? There you go.
There are rumors, but so here's a question, and I think it's a really interesting follow up to this. Would Deion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 4 years, 5 years. JT Shrout, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either. Like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
Well, and if they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? Like, I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him. So I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that, he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him. A lot of moving parts there to even know if we'll ever find that answer out.
Emphasis on they bring somebody else in behind him that's competent. Like, if you don't have a chance to start, how high of a recruit or transfer are you really going to bring in or like pull there? That's if they're going to do this, Tyson is the type of guy.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player, so he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. So he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. So next year would be the year to see. And let's remember this. He hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle. So maybe he could get one of these 2024, the class of 2024 quarterbacks that are coming to Colorado. And say what you want. I mean, sometimes you can scout location if you're at Miami. You're right next to the beach. If you're in Chicago at Northwestern for some reason, you're in the city. If you're at UCLA or USC, you can recruit the city, the fact that you're going there. Boulder, Colorado, from what I've seen, is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. So it should.
That is quite the turnaround from when we first started talking about this on Better Sports, by the way.
What do you mean?
Boulder, Colorado went for a city that could use some revitalization under Deion to a beautiful city.
That's not what I said. I'm being misquoted. What I said is that just by the fact that Prime is going there, you're going to see more business at restaurants, more business at the farmers markets. The hotels are going to be packed every single Saturday and Friday. Like, he is going to bring an economy to Boulder, Colorado. Yes, Moxley, even though the median home price in Boulder, Colorado is $1.1 million, I'm telling you that businesses are going to see a boom there in Boulder by the fact that there's so much anticipation and excitement surrounding this football program. Watch what happens when we get to November 2023, and there's going to be some study done by some school about how much business the football program has generated. All right. Austin
isn't that also ski season as well in Boulder?
I've never skied. Have you ever skied?
I've skied.
That's not a Austin, you're a skier. Have you ever skied? I've never skied.
No.
Never skied.
I have a very hard rule in life that if it's something that the pros sometimes die doing, I probably don't have much interest in it. And so skiing just falls on that list. I've never been particularly interested.
That's
there's just let me just say there are certain cultures that tend to gravitate towards and away from skiing. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Can you expand on that?
Jaden Rashada is what, a 4-star, 5-star quarterback for somewhere in there.
He's a 5-star on one service composite. He's a
he was originally originally committed to Mario Cristobal's Miami Hurricanes, was flipped to Florida with Billy Napier, allegedly had a substantial NIL deal worth $10 million plus, and something happened there. Austin, give us a sense of both, who Jaden Rashada is as a recruit and a prospect, and then what happened with this deal falling through with Florida.
Yeah, I think he's a good, not great quarterback. And without, giving a 10-minute scouting report on him, thinner kid, big arm, likes to push the ball downfield, needs to work a lot on accuracy and kind of the technical aspects of quarterback play. He went to the one of the All-American games. There's 2 of them every year. He played at one of them. He wasn't particularly good at it, which isn't a death sentence. Drew Allard did not look good at his last year, and we expect him to be really good at Penn State next year. So, but regardless, he's not like some can't miss guy. Timeline of this, essentially, he was committed to Miami, like you said. They have been throwing, like, this isn't a secret. They have a guy there that is very vocal on social media about it. They've been throwing money around. He was committed there. Apparently was promised some good money to go there. I think Florida got caught up in a little bit of we have to one up our in-state rival here at some point. Reportedly offered him some sort of ungodly amount. We don't know. The rumored amount is $13 million. I kind of find that hard to believe, but regardless, it was a lot over the course of his time there at Florida. He said, okay, he flipped his commitment. He signed on National Signing Day, and right around that time, reportedly, like behind the scenes, the NIL people said, like, oh, actually, we can't fulfill this contract. Like, we couldn't raise the money we thought we did. The person who promised to give us all this money is no longer giving it. We don't have the money. So they've kind of been going back and forth, like, well, he's not enrolling if you don't give us money. And they're like, well, hold on a second. That's kind of been the debate back and forth. Classes started there. He had until, I believe, last Friday to officially enroll and show up to classes. That was the end of ad drop. And he wasn't anywhere in sight. So then there were rumors, well, maybe he'll still get the money later. He'll sign up. He'll come over the summer, whatever, no harm, no foul. He's officially asked out, and they have officially released him from his letter of intent. So he's not enrolling anywhere this spring. We'll see where he ends up going. But this is kind of the scenario that we all envisioned, like, happening. There's no oversight on any of this stuff. So, I mean, this is the downside.
And it's a weird relationship.
to NIL.
It's a weird relationship between the school itself and the NIL collective in the athlete, because the school is not supposed to have any, say in the NIL stuff. They're actually supposed to keep an arm's length distance. And so now you have
Florida specifically too is very, very strict about that. Like, compared to other states, like, you cannot in any capacity engage with a football or academics department or athletics department. Some schools there's like a little bit of leeway. Florida is not like that at all, which complicates
it. They're not like the Texas A&M coach that got caught on camera last year giving those kids the tour of the stadium, and he was pointing up at the boxes and he's like, oh yeah, those are all the people that are going to give you a bunch of money when you come here. Can't do that in Florida. No.
Florida is very, very specific about the engagement that you can have between the program and the boosters.
Mox, are you saying like by state law, or the school itself has policy?
No, by state law, they're the strictest state in the country about NIL between the NIL collective and the coach athletic administration.
It's such a weird dynamic, because if you're giving money to players to recruit, like, these NIL collectives then have a lot of say-so towards what happens in recruiting that somehow the school can't be involved in. I don't know how you do that. 13 million. Some of these numbers are starting to trickle in, and these kids are making bank coming into school. Jaden Rashada, 13 million. And then it was reported that Nico Iamaleava, who is headed to Tennessee, that his deal, he signed as a junior in high school, and his contract, I think, paid him while he was still in high school. It's reported that one was $8 million. And we're just getting started. You still got Dylan Raiola, who's coming down the pike in next year's class, who is, probably Arch Manning as a level recruit and prospect. We think that Arch Manning is a little bit overrated, but as far as being, an elevated recruit, Dylan Raiola is just as, at some point we're going to get, and there's no salary cap. At some point we're going to get to where these 5-star recruits are making, it's not hyperbole to say $20 million or a $20 million contract for a 5-star quarterback.
The opposite is going to happen, because there's only a couple schools that can afford that right now, as we've seen. Like, even a school like Florida obviously apparently cannot afford that kind of money. All it's going to take is for one or two of these big schools to get burned on one of those contracts by a kid who just stinks. I actually think the contracts are going to go down. I think we're kind of in the Wild West stage where they might go up for another year or two, and then I think we see them all but for like the elitist of the elite, like a Trevor Lawrence perfect 1.000 prospect coming out of high school. I don't think we'll see it for anybody. I think they'll give it to established guys, and that might be more of the game. Like, we'll lure you over to transfer after a year with a big sum once we've seen you do it.
I actually disagree, I think.
I do too.
As more money flows into the sport, there is more incentive to recruit someone that you think is going to hit. And there was a study done I don't remember who did it, but the thesis was that Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, his whole brand at Texas A&M was worth $400 million. If you hit on one of these recruits, you hit on an Arch Manning, you hit on a Nico Iamaleava, they're substantially going to outperform their $8 million.
Don't they just
$13 million
demand more
for
since
Jaden
the
Rashada?
contracts are made up and the amounts don't matter? Like, isn't that then when somebody swoops in who has a lot more money than you and pays you? That's my point. Like, no one would have paid Johnny Manziel. And then Johnny would have won that first year. And then Johnny comes back and says, yeah, I'm not playing unless you pay me a ton of money. And at that point, you didn't really get a discount. Like, maybe for 1 year.
So I don't think that there's a number that you can put on a quarterback performing at a high level. Like, I'm talking like a top 5, top 3 level. That is that matches the market. Like, you could pay this dude $10 million a year. And when we talk about Jaden Rashada and Nico Iamaleava is like $8 million and $13 million respectively, that's over the course of 4 years, like, or their collegiate career. Like, you pay a guy $20 million a year, and I still don't think if he's a high-end performer that it is worth what he's bringing to you from a marketing perspective. Like, I think that's been proven with, I think Manziel is a great use case here, but there's been a couple players like that where if you hit, it's just like wheels up. So I think it's worth the risk for someone who wants to assume it. It just depends, like, what are these boosters getting out of it, or these NIL collectives getting out of it? That's a different question. Because if you're investing, you're not really getting a material return. It's like that's the hindrance that I think exists.
Austin, the reason I disagree with you about contracts going down at some point is because this is like the purest form of capitalism. There's no regulation. There's no salary cap. It is pure competition to get these kids into the door. You can't tell me that if USC wants highly recruited quarterback X, they're not going to say, all right, we're not going to break the bank for him. We're going to let him go to Ohio State or Michigan or Miami or Florida. No, that booster club, that NIL collective is going to be like, all right, how much money do we need? Eventually, like, these schools are going to be bidding against each other. I don't see how the numbers go down from this point. I honestly don't see how the numbers go down from this point.
So anybody that listens to, our variety of shows that I do every single week, I played college soccer. Like, I'm a huge soccer guy. So I still follow soccer very, very closely. I think what we're going to see is kind of a shift. Like, it's going to equate itself to what happens in like high-end European soccer, where a team that has a ton of money, think Manchester City, if for anybody, they're owned by like the state of Qatar. Like, they have like literally just billions and billions of oil money behind them. They don't have to go out and find the wonder kid at 18 and develop him and hope that he gets good. What Manchester City can do is they can wait for little Brighton, who's lucky to stay in the Premier League every year. They're having a good year this year. Don't send me crappy messages. Wait for a guy to go there, show that he can do it in England and get really, really good. This kid from a little village in Brazil. And then you splash the cash and you bring him over and you pay all the money and you pay them. I think that's going to be the scenario. I just don't think that Ohio State is going to be throwing around $30 million for a kid to come in, or $20 million. They'll pay it for Bryce Young after he wins the Heisman and they want to bring him over. Or
there were rumors that this happened with Drake May this offseason.
Yes.
Where it was like more than $5 million for a single season. Like, generally, again, when we talk about these deals, it's over the course of 4 years. So like $5 million for a single season, considering Drake May is probably going to declare in 2024, equate that, right? So it makes sense. If a guy hits his freshman or sophomore year, though, that's got to be worth something more, right? Like, you're like multiple years versus a single year. Like, yes, there is more risk involved, but teams and collectives that can afford it, would you not continually just keep trying? Or is it just like at some point the top end becomes so narrow and there's so few teams that can actually bid that it just like becomes a functional salary cap? So I think that like you said that earlier, I think that that's a legitimate argument that there's only so many teams that can actually push the price up.
Austin said, don't send them dirty messages. Please send them dirty messages at Devi, D-E-T-D-E.
I like Brighton. Fun team.
DETS on Twitter, Chris Moxley 19 on Twitter, and at Sharp Review on Twitter. Guys, the NFL playoffs are here, and that the NFL Playoff Challenge continues with a new contest starting this week, sponsored by Lucra. Click on the link in our app right now or at bettersports.com to register for a free entry and set your fantasy football lineup. Compete against the BSN hosts and community, including me. I got a playoff roster in there. It's not doing, I think I'm second to last. The top scorer wins an autographed NFL jersey and the winner's choice and an appearance on Better Sports Network. Join the NFL Playoff Challenge, sponsored by Lucra. All right, guys, when we come back from break here, we're going to do a 2023 true or false. All right? So get ready. Come back with us after the break. This is Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley, Austin Nace, Campus2Canton on Better Sports Network.
We come.
Campus to Canton.
Better Sports Network is sponsored by Lucra.
Okay, it is now time for our Lucra app contest of the day. Obviously, we have been telling you about Lucra throughout the last couple of weeks here on the Better Sports Network. What we're talking about is an app that you can download. You sign up, you registered. I was looking at it today because I'm in Missouri, and it's like, well, Missouri doesn't have legalized, excitement of wagering, betting, all that. But you can do Lucra. And the reason you can do it is it's a contest. You challenge a friend, you challenge a buddy, family member, whoever it is, and you can look at that day's events and you can kind of say, okay, I'm going to take this side of the coin. You want to take this side, most points scored or most yards thrown for, whatever you want to do. You can create these contests. Money is put up. Right now, when you sign up, you download the Lucra app, you sign up, you register, use the promo code BSN, and they will throw in a free $5 for you to get rolling. So get that app, use the promo code BSN. You're good to go. Challenge your friends, your family, enemies, whoever you want to challenge, you can do it. Ray and I are challenging each other in our own little contest, and we'll do this throughout the week where we'll kind of say, I'll take this side, you take that side. We are looking specifically, Ray, today at the Cincinnati and Buffalo game. This will be the first game on Sunday. Right now, the money line has Buffalo minus 225, and Cincinnati is at plus 190. So I send you the contest. It pops up in the Lucra app. People will see, oh, so-and-so wants to challenge me. Let's see what he's wanting to play for. So, Ray, we're doing a challenge on the pick'em, the money line here to win straight up. Buffalo, Cincinnati, what side do you have?
I'm taking the side where I'm going to win, and I'm not going to get any money for it. I'm going to take the Bills. It's a tough matchup, right? And there's absolutely a path to success here for the Bengals. I just looked at the Bengals last week, and you mentioned this yesterday. Yeah, like they didn't look sharp. And again, the game flow and the way it went, and okay, but they didn't do much. In the second half, they didn't have the ball, but they didn't do much in the second half. They've had a hard time establishing the run of late. More importantly, they've lost multiple offensive linemen, so now there's all kinds of concern, which is the area that they work to strengthen on. We all were excited about the offensive line coming into this season. The season started, the offensive line wasn't very good. We all said, what the hell? They finally figured it out, got rolling. Now the guys are falling away with injury. There are concerns with the Bills that I have expressed with you for weeks now, months now, even with the offense. But it's a home game for the Bills. I think that they're going to pose some problems for the Bengals. And I think that they'll win, but that money line would not make me excited about betting that one specifically, but using Lucra and getting able to play against you, I'm in.
That is our Lucra app contest of the day. Ray's taking the Buffalo side straight up. I'm going with Cincinnati. We'll continue to hit you with some Lucra app contest as we go through the week. And again, reminder, head over to your favorite app store, download it now. Lucra, by the way, is how you spell that.
Better Sports Network is sponsored by Lucra. Winning is fun, and beating your friends is even better. Download the Lucra app today to challenge your friends and win money.
Campus to Canton crew here with you. We've got you. Moose and Keith following us, and then stay tuned for the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show hosted by Eric Balkman. You can catch this show on demand on the Better Sports app. If you didn't catch the first half, I was mocked and ridiculed for including Deion Sanders and Colorado football talk at the top of the show, which is the thing that only everybody is talking about. You know what? So you know what I'm going to do, Austin? Next show, we're talking New Mexico State for half an hour.
Boom.
New Mexico State, San Jose State.
San Jose State's actually fun.
You're speaking my language.
I've got a 2023 true false here for you guys, okay? Looking forward. See, I like this time of year because we get to play around in the sandbox a little bit. We don't have to respond to games happening and all this new information. We get to create. We get to be creative here since it is we won't call it the off season. We'll call it the non-playing season. Are you guys ready? So listen, I'm going to give you a true false question, all right? And you give your analysis if you think it's true. You give your analysis you think it's false, all right? All right, here we go. You ready for the first one? Mox, Austin, you ready? Here we go. First one. Quinn Ewers, one of the highest rated quarterback recruits we've seen in the recruiting rankings history. He will be a Heisman Trophy finalist in 2023. Is that true or false?
Mox, you want to go first?
I am going to say false just based on the odds. Betting on anybody to be a Heisman Trophy finalist at 20-1 feels like a bad bet. But I am someone who is betting on him to win the Heisman. Despite that, I think there were a lot of peripheral metrics that supported him. Like stuff I talked about earlier, big time throw rate. I felt like he didn't have a lot of time. Texas pass blocking was suspect. I think this is going to be a better team in 2023, and I am investing him. I have taken Quinn Ewers at 20-1 and better. I just have, but I do not think that if I was to bet today, I would not say that he's a Heisman finalist.
This is a player who is on the same level as Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Bryce Young, as far as a prospect.
Better.
Caleb Williams, as far as even better as far as a prospect. However, he has not lived up to the billing. After the middle of the season, this dude was very much a game manager. He was throwing the ball a lot behind the line of scrimmage, a lot of short stuff, inaccurate on deep throws. He got injured in the Alabama game, and after that point, he was really a different player. Xavier Worthy, one of his primary wide receivers, did not play well. He needs a better supporting cast, and the reason why I've got this guy here in this question is because he has not played to the same level as the players in his echelon. Austin Nace, 2023. Quinn Ewers will be a Heisman Trophy candidate. True or false?
I'm going to say true for a couple of reasons. The stats that Chris and Matt talked about on last week's show about, and Chris talked about them earlier in the show, big time throw percentage, some EPA and some of those other ones. Like he actually performed fairly well in them despite that injury in the Alabama game. I think you can also count on a second year there playing with Steve Sarkisian. They're the head coach, but really the brains behind the offense there. I think we trust him to kind of develop him. It sounds like the rumor is that AD Mitchell, who was at Georgia, who entered the transfer portal, he's from Texas, reportedly has a newborn or a very young child back home in Texas, might be headed there just to give him another weapon on top of what he already had. I think the offensive line, we talked about it all last year, they were better than we expected them to be, but they're a very young unit. I think another year of them all kind of growing, getting to know each other.
True freshmen, baby.
Yeah.
Two true freshmen.
Yeah, I think that's big. I think the defense, it doesn't really lose a lot. They lose Demarion Overshown, but they just added Jalen Catalon, so I think that the team will be good. I know they have Alabama out of conference. They might still be able to lose that game and still only lose like one game on the year, win the conference, make the playoff. I think that all factors in. So I'm going to say yes. I think with a lot of last year's Heisman guys all leaving, except for Caleb, I think he has as good of a chance as anyone to be there on the podium. Oh, we lost Felix. Well, I upset
We've got
him so
competing
much.
answers there. We got conflicting answers there. Moxley says no. Chris and Austin says true. Moxley says false. Austin says true. All right. I'm discombobulated here. All right. This is another related question. We got Arch Manning, a very highly decorated recruit. His name probably carries more cachet than his actual recruiting pedigree. However, still, like if Quinn Ewers does not play well, we could start hearing the boo birds there in Austin during the games, the same way we heard them for Spencer Rattler when Caleb Williams was backing him up. So here is the question. Austin, we'll start with you. Without an injury, will Arch Manning will start a game in 2023? True or false?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because of my first answer, I'm going to say false.
These are not accusations. This is false accusation. And
whoa, that's aggressive.
It's weird to say this about a kid whose last name is Manning. When we think of the Manning, we think of Peyton Manning as just a guy that's, the ultimate professional, ready for anything. We don't really think of Eli in that breath, although we probably should. But Arch is he's raw. He's not really ready for college football. He is probably more Eli than Peyton. If you watch his high school stuff, he runs like a lot, and he will lower his shoulder and run somebody over. Like he kind of plays similarly to how Matt Corral did at Ole Miss when he was there, or Sam Howell at UNC. Like I think those are kind of comparable recent players in terms of play style. Not to say he's a bad player. I just don't think he's ready. I think he needs to sit a year. I don't see, without injury, I don't see him starting a game. No, he might get him at the end of Rice is early in the year. I was going to say at the end of one of these, blowout cupcake type games, but no, not as a starter.
Moxley, without an injury, Arch Manning will start a game for Texas in 2023. True or false?
False.
False accusation. And
so I said false to Ewers being a Heisman finalist, but he's still one of my favorite bets at his odds, which tells me that I don't think that Arch Manning is going to be able to get on the field this year without an injury. I think Arch Manning is a fine player. I think that he will probably be a very good collegiate quarterback, potentially NFL quarterback. I don't think it's going to happen. And I do, Austin spoke to it just now. I do think we will see him listed as a starter on a game day roster. Probably not.
This is the only way I can see it happening. Let's say Texas is rolling. Now, Texas's full schedule is not released yet. It'll be released at the end of January. So we only have 3 games. Let's say they have a non-conference game like in week 8 or 9. And I'm talking about a team that they're going to steamroll. You could see Arch Manning getting a start in that game and maybe playing the first 2 drives or something like that to appease the crowd. Something like that could happen. We've seen stuff like that happen before. But without an injury, I'm not sure. And quite frankly, Texas still has Malik Murphy there at Texas. And Austin's rolling his eyes. Malik Murphy went to the same high school as Tom Brady. He's got an excellent arm. This is his 2nd year. Malik Murphy is a good player in his own right.
He
doesn't. No,
he'll never play a meaningful snap at Texas ever.
I agree with that. I think Arch, the second he comes in, is going to jump Malik Murphy on the depth chart.
We'll see Malik Murphy transfer after spring.
You two are haters. Here's the next question. Ohio State will be favored when they take on Michigan this November in 2023. Now, remember, Ohio State has lost 2 straight. They're going to have a new quarterback, no Jackson Smith and Jigba, and this game is going to be at the Big House. Chris Moxley, Ohio State, will they be favored? They will be favored going into that game in 2023. True or false?
True.
That is correct.
Oh, I love that. Is that Leslie Jordan? I think that's Leslie Jordan in our ears.
It's Chris Farley.
Oh, it sounds like Leslie Jordan. Leslie Jordan, RIP. So I had them favorite in a rematch if we were to see it. I think that they are 2.5 to 3 points better this year. Ohio State is going to lose 3 offensive linemen to the draft, and I still am not that concerned because I think Ohio State as an overall unit is just more talented than Michigan. They have better players than Michigan. Michigan is losing 2 quality defensive players in the draft. I don't necessarily know that they're going to be able to keep up as well as they did this year. Their co-offensive coordinator is, I want to make sure I say this right, is in trouble for computer crimes. Like, I don't even know what that means. I just want to make sure that I'm
talking like John Kitna's son computer crimes, or like
no.
Okay,
not like that. So Matt Weiss is his name, and he is in trouble for computer crimes, and I believe he will not coach a game again at Michigan. So I just
computer crimes. So you mean like check fraud or something like that? This is the vaguest description we could ever give.
Well, that's all that we've heard out of it. But it is not a federal matter; it's a state matter, which means that it is something. He will not coach again at Michigan. I don't love JJ McCarthy. I still think Kyle McCord is probably a better quarterback if they go head to head. So give me Ohio State. I will probably have Ohio State 2.5. Again,
I'm going to tell you, you got to speed up your answers. All right, here we go. Austin, Ohio State will be favored when they take on Michigan this November 2023. True or false? Austin? All right, we're having technical difficulty. I'm gonna answer for him. I'm just going to say that is true. Ohio State will be favored. Ohio State is a better team. They are a better football team. They were last year. I don't know what Ohio State was doing with its defensive play calling, essentially playing with no safeties.
Cover zero, baby.
Cover zero, which is the dumbest thing ever to play. Just letting JJ McCarthy beat you with 2 or 3 throws. The thing is as good as Michigan has been the last 2 seasons, being in the playoff in both seasons, beating Ohio State in both seasons, that has not translated to recruiting. Now, on a couple of weeks ago, I had a segment, my contrarian segment, where I called for Jim Harbaugh to be fired. And that is the reason why. Is because he hasn't been able to translate the success on the field to recruiting. That's how you build long term. And I'm sorry, Michigan's just not building long term.
When you're considering an NFL job every other offseason, how many recruits are you going to bring in?
He can't even recruit his own state. Dante Moore, 5-star quarterback who ripped up the Under Armour All-American Bowl. And from Detroit King, 45 minutes away from campus, Jim Harbaugh can't land him. They have a recruiting problem. I'm just telling you, I'm sorry to break the bad news, but Michigan is a flash-in-the-pan program. All right, Mox, let's go to this next one. USC will emerge from the Pac-12 to make the playoff. True or false? Now, let me give you some context. Defense has been this team's Achilles heel. Yes, they have Lincoln Riley. Yes, they have Jerry Rice's son. Yes, they have Caleb Williams. They're ranked 106 in total defense. Alex Grinch remains the defensive coordinator. They actually had to make a statement that Alex Grinch would remain the offensive coordinator. That's never a good sign when you have to make an announcement that you're going to keep the status quo. Just imagine like if your wife or girlfriend just called you into the kitchen and said, I just want to let you know, we're going to keep it together. Just imagine if you got an email from work and they said, hey, everybody, we just want to let you know that we're going to let you keep your jobs this year. Not a good sign. Not a good sign for Alex Grinch. So give me an answer. USC will emerge from the Pac-12 to make the playoff in 2023. True or false, Chris?
I'm going to say false. That Pac-12 is a tough schedule with Washington and Oregon, especially this year. Utah is always competitive. USC is the 5th best odds to win the national championship, and I think that's probably right considering they have Caleb Williams, but it's still an uphill climb. I don't love their transfer class. I think it's really a step in the right direction, but not necessarily what you need to close the gap. They just lost Tulane. Like, what do you want me to say? They just lost to Tulane. How am I going to put this team in the playoff?
Rick Ross is extremely aggressive every time we say false. Every time we say
accusations.
False. Accusation.
Very aggressive. All right. Austin Nace is back. We had technical difficulties there for a second. Austin, USC will emerge from the Pac-12 in 2023 to make the playoff. True or false?
I'm going to say true.
That is correct.
I know it is correct. I think that they at worst will be comparable to how they were last year. I think a lot of the teams that you mentioned will be worse next year. I think Oregon State will be a little bit worse. I think Utah will be a little bit worse. The only teams I'm really thinking will be better in the conference that I'd worry about will be Washington, who I think will be comparable to last year. I don't know that they'll be better. And then I think Oregon will be, again, comparable. I don't know if they'll be better. So I think even if we're saying status quo here, yeah, I think they can win the conference. And if they win the conference, I think that they get in.
USC has to win all. So Oregon, Utah, and Washington. USC is going to have to score 47 points or something to win those games. They're all going to be entertaining games. Washington, which traditionally had been good defensively, they may be able to hold them. I don't know what their defense projects for 2023, but that might be the team that can beat them. I don't know that they make it through all three of those teams unscathed, but you don't have to make the playoff. You can make the playoff with one loss. You might be able to make the playoff with two losses. So I'm going to say true.
That is correct.
I'm going to say true. All right, here we go. What is this number? I can't count. I went to public school. All right, Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M Moxley will have a top 50 offense in 2023. That's after last year their scoring offense ranked 101st, passing offense ranked 84th, rushing offense ranked 80th. In EPA per play, they were 103rd. This is a team that had the best recruiting class in rankings history from last season. A lot of those guys have transferred. They bring in Bobby Petrino, who was Lamar Jackson's head coach at Louisville, a guy who's been able to produce offense for a very long time, even with a neck brace on. So Bobby Petrino's there now. Mox, true or false, Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M will have a top 50 offense in 2023.
False. I will see it. When I see it, I will believe it. There is no chance that I'm going to tell you that Texas A&M is a top 50 offense after they posted 103rd EPA per play. Get out of here. And I actually like the Bobby Petrino hire just on the field. Off the field, motorcycle riding, neck brace wearing, that's a whole different conversation. On the field, I think Petrino is a good coach. But you will catch me dead before I tell you that Texas A&M is going to have top 50 offense in the country.
False accusation.
I like how I told Mox to speed up his answer, and he sat up in his chair and is pointing at the camera and is yelling. All right, Austin, here we go. Same question. Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M will have a top 50 offense in 2023. True or false?
True, barely.
That is correct.
They'll be right around 50, right inside it. And two reasons why. Bobby Petrino, as we already talked about, I think he is that good of an offensive coordinator. I think that the tools are there, that have just not been used correctly. The chief amongst them is Connor Wegman. I think Connor Wegman is going to really have a breakout this year. He was a 5-star in last year's class, went there. We were kind of nervous because we saw what Jimbo's offense did last year. It's not an exciting offense. It's outdated. It's not explosive. But I think with this new offense, I think Connor Wegman, he is the biggest buy for me in any sort of college format, like C2Cs. If I'm playing Devy, if I'm playing any sort of these fantasy leagues, I'm trying to get Connor Wegman. I think he's going to have a really, really, really good year. I think Connor Wegman this year will actually be the Drake May of last year, who was kind of down the stretch the Tyler Van Dyke of the year before, a guy that just really gets it going as the year goes on and becomes a great quarterback prospect.
We got some breaking news here. Cormani McClain, the number one cornerback in this 2023 freshman class, it's official that he is headed to Colorado. So now Colorado has, at least from a recruiting perspective, one of the best 1-2 punches at the cornerback position that we've seen in some time. Why am I already forgetting his name?
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter could be a number one wide receiver if he wanted to be. Travis Hunter and Cormani McClain make up that wide receiver duo now. They got some length, they got some speed, they got some playmakers in the secondary. And you know what? If that's where Coach Prime is going to start with building his program on, good for him. But he's got two good ones there. So Cormani McClain to Colorado. To tie the bow on this Texas A&M conversation, they've had some turbulence there last season and into this season. This, according to Bruce Feldman earlier on Twitter, Texas A&M has lost 25 scholarship players in one offseason. 18 were blue chip recruits. 8 were top 100 recruits, including 5 stars, Denver Harris and Chris Marshall. 7 were from their top-ranked 2022 recruiting class. If they can get that offense to turn it around, maybe they can see success in the recruiting game again. But one thing we learned from the 2022 season is that NIL money and bringing in a top recruiting class does not equal success on the field. Texas A&M wasn't even bowl eligible this year after having the best recruiting class in recruiting rankings history last season. So, all right, let's move on here to another team that's like on the tip of being like a bad team, like a bad program. And that's Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers, okay? Here's our question, Austin. We'll go to you with this one first. Dabo Swinney, another offensive question. Dabo Swinney and Clemson will have a top 50 offense in 2023. Now, they were 52nd in EPA per play in 2022 and 41st in yards per game. No DJ Uiagalelei. They haven't been very creative in the past since, they lost Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. I would even argue they weren't creative then. But here's the question is in 2023, Dabo Swinney and Clemson will have a top 50 offense. True or false?
I'm going to say true, and this will be barely again. Like
That is correct.
Right around 50. I think Garrett Riley, the new offensive coordinator coming in, he was at TCU this past year. He parlayed last year's success into a jump to Clemson here. I think that's a good thing for them. I think the real growth with Riley will be actually in 2024. I still have a lot of questions about the offensive line, which at Clemson has not been good the past couple of years, and I don't think projects to be good again next year. They haven't added anybody. So I think they'll be just within. I think the offensive line will really hold them back, but I think they have the pieces there and the coordinator this is like an upswing for the offense. And I think this is kind of the first year where we see it. And the ACC is not good defensively. Like, it's just not.
Mox, before you give me your answer, let me get this in here. Better Sports Network is sponsored by Lucra. Lucra is redefining friendly competition. Compete in the games you play and the sports you watch with Lucra. Download the app right now to create a contest and bet against your friends in as little as 15 seconds. Use promo code BSN when you sign up and receive a free $5 to play with. Winning is fun, and beating your friends is even better with Lucra. Chris Moxley, top 50 offense for Texas A&M in 2023. True or false?
Texas A&M, true. Clemson, also true.
That is correct.
What happened to your voice there? Did it crack a little bit?
A little bit, right? Clemson was borderline. They just have better athletes, like, period. I just think that they're going to be able to do that to the ACC.
This could be a fun team, and I think that we want to see a team compete with Alabama and with Georgia in the SEC. And let's not forget that Texas and Oklahoma are coming. So that's the most fun conference in college football. And, if Jimbo and Bobby Petrino can get it together, we just got one more program there to make it even more fun. Last one here, and then we're going to get out of here. All right, Mox, give me something quick. Cameron Ward. Now, for those who don't know, and I got to do this really quick, Cameron Ward came from Incarnate Ward, went to Washington State. There were a lot of expectations for him. Spread quarterback who can throw the ball over the field. He is terrible downfield. True or false, Cameron Ward will cure his downfield passing woes, cure his downfield passing woes in 2023, and be a first-round quarterback or enter the first-round quarterback conversation next year. True or false, Mox?
False. He is horrendous passing downfield, 34% beyond 20 yards.
Austin,
Terrible.
hurry up.
False.
Felix Sharpe, Chris Moxley, Austin Nace. This is the Campus Canton crew. We will see you